Hello, everybody. Welcome to our 20th meetup. A little bit different than expected. We're digital now, not in person, but we're going to have a fun evening again. I have a guest. His name is Maddock. Hello.
Hello.
Yeah. Do we say Maddock or do we say your real name?
I don't care.
I don't care. Okay. I will say Peter because I
Hello.
always say Peter. I asked Peter to join me in our walkthrough today. We have a very cool machine that we're going to talk about. It's called Forge. Forge is a medium difficulty machine. So it will be a little bit more involved than easy. There will be a couple of steps. Especially the user part is quite long and involved with lots of little steps. So it should be great fun. Let me pull up my screen. There we go. I am using Parrot OS or Pwnebox, I should say, so that the people in Discord can also follow along. This is a quite default Pwnebox. I have done one improvement, and students that follow my Hack Friday know this as the back of their hand. I have a script called Upgrade Parrot. I'll make it a little bit bigger. That I run, and it installs things like sec lists, installs head, Ferox Buster, stuff like that, and it fiddles a little bit with cut and stuff like that. Feel free to check it out. I do this because it allows me to see Parrot OS as I use my own machine. And I have all the nice little colors and stuff like that because I'm very attached to my colors. Yeah, so let's get started. I think, as always, the most important thing is to just do a scan so we know what we are looking at. Let's pull up the page of the machine. Our beautiful machine here. If we look at the bloods, the first blood was 9 minutes and 33 seconds, and system blood in 11 minutes. So you would say, like, well, that's not too hard then. Will take a little bit longer. So let's copy over the IP address, and we'll do a quick nmap and see what it has. Oh yeah. 3 ports that are of interest, port 21, port 22, and port 80. Let's do a somewhat deeper scan of that, and we will get rolling. Unlike IPSEC, I have not done this beforehand, so we will have to wait for nmap. But Peter, you've already done this machine as well.
Yep.
What were your feelings about the machine?
It was a nice machine. It has some nice tricks up his sleeve to do this one.
Yeah, it's quite fun. From this scan result, did you pick up on anything interesting?
When I saw port 80, it was like, okay, let's first check that one just to see what's running on the server.
Yeah. There's the FTP. It somewhat seems working. It's filtered, but the nmap with its -SC, if it would be a open FTP, so you could log in as a anonymous user or something like that, it will show a listing. It's not here. It's also filtered, and that's quite interesting because normally we only see open ports. And why would something be filtered? Nmap has a lot of rules and a lot of heuristics that it says, like, if a machine acts in a certain way, a port is either closed or open. But maybe it deviates from that behavior, maybe due to a firewall that says, like, well, this port is open, but you're not allowed. And then Nmap will pick up on that and say like, well, I know it's not open, but I'm also quite sure it's not closed. So it's probably filtered for your use. So this to me on port 21 would mean that there's a firewall or something active. Quite interesting. Another thing that is quite interesting in the output here of port 80 is this HTTP title. It says, did not follow redirect to forge.htb. This signals that we will have an immediate problem going to this machine. I think you also ran into it, right?
Yep. But you made a nice program that's called head.
Yes.
That can solve that.
Yes, a true story. Let's first go into this beautiful thing. At this point, the website says, or actually the browser says, we're having trouble finding this site. And you might think, oh, I did something wrong. It says if the address, so the message is not very clear, except for the address bar, it says forge.htb. The machine does not know this. So I don't like to self-advertise, but I made a really cool tool. It's called Head. It allows you to add entries to your host file without having to edit your host file. And that's a beautiful thing because I got really annoyed by editing the host file, or rather, my students got really annoyed because when you get started with Hack the Box, it's all fine, and most students don't have any experience when they get started, and this is their first time going into hacking things. And then one of the first things they need to do is learn how to do sudo to edit a file that has some cryptic format, and then make sure that they don't make any mistakes. So in the old days, I spent a lot of time helping students edit their host file. So I created a tool for it. I've been trying to get it into the Debian ecosystem, but if you want to have a teeth-shattering experience, you should give that a try. And so it's horrible. But I've added this name, so it's connected to this IP address. So we should be able to do this, and we indeed see a beautiful gallery. Yeah. At this point, I actually do a browser tweak. I don't know if you ever noticed, but if you do forge.htb, the browser will actually want to search. And I've found myself a million times looking at pages like this. Did you mean to go to this machine? Yes, take me there. For the ones who want to fix that, there's an about config thingy. About config is the advanced editing of your browser settings. So you just say accept the risk. And then there's a domain, browser.fixup I need to learn how to type. Domain suffix whitelist.htb. We add that to the list with this plus sign. It's set to true, and then from now on, if we do forge.htb, it will actually give the visit link. And now my OCD is completely happy, and we can continue. So yeah, Peter, a gallery website.
Yeah, a very nice gallery website. With an upload image.
Yeah, that's except for some pictures. There's there's a help thing. I did not see that last time. It's a clipboard. That's not that's nope. From Pwnbox. Upload. Yeah, right. Cool.
Yeah, with two options: upload file or upload URL. Okay, nice. That's interesting.
Let's upload a file. Let's do something. My credentials, readme.license. That's fine. I don't think I want to upload my my credentials. Let's do that. Let's see what happens. Cool. So upload it, and we can click it, and it displays. It contains the error. It seems we will do some work with the web application, so I would suggest opening Burp as well, so we can actually see the requests.
You can do it without.
Yeah, but I'd like to
Okay.
leave me to my OCD.
Okay. No problem.
No, I like to just open Burp. We could do F12 and look at it like that, or we can do curl, but we might want to go back as well. So let's just open Burp. Do that. I've never done the update thingy. I don't know why it does not have a thing that says like "Don't bother me." So yeah, I like to pull up Burp, and Parrot already has this Foxy Proxy thingy, which is a really cool browser extension that allows you to switch between proxies, which is more useful than that you would actually think that it is. It needs a configuration which is just the name. I just say Burp. The color, I always keep the same thing. And then it needs to know the IP address and the port of the proxy. So it's 127.0.0.1 and 80.80. And I just click save. Now we can just live in the joy of a Burp proxy. We can just say, instead of turn off, can do use Burp. And now I just need to uncheck intercept is off. And because I want to use Burp, and we have people watching, we should actually have some legible font thingies. So it's almost like I've done this before, right? Right. Almost. So yeah, and if we now reload the page, it says cannot be displayed, and we can see it in this beautiful interface. And the thingy is not modified, so it's the browser has cached it, which is kind of sad. Do it without. Yeah, there we go. And so the Linux license thingy file that I uploaded is the welcome to Parrot GNU Linux. I don't know if anybody would actually read this file if I did not use it for upload. So yeah, it is the file that I've uploaded as an image. It came back as an image JPEG. So that's cool. That's cool. So we know we can upload something and it will get put on the machine. Does not look like it will be evaluated in any way, though.
Nope.
Yeah. And then did you also try the upload from URL thingy?
Definitely.
Right.
But not before. I just tried something else just to see what else is visible on the server. So I started GoBuster.
Nice.
Just to see what's running besides the default website.
Yeah, we can definitely do that. So we can kick off a process and then just explore the machine while we do it. I actually started using Buster myself.
Okay.
I will show. We've shown GoBuster a couple of times already. Buster is a re-implementation of a fuzzing tool in Rust. The Rust people, myself included, have taken to re-implement everything. Something I really like from Buster is that it has a lot of sensible defaults. So I say like, hey, do my machine. Do we know if this is a PHP website or something like that? Is that clear for us? Let's see. It's not really clear, right? I've not seen. No.
Nope.
No. So I'll just keep the defaults. If we would know that it's a PHP or a Python or whatever, then we would add the extensions to it. So I will just hit that, and it will run. cool thing is it shows that it does web content with a very sane list. Yeah. While we wait for that, some comments on YouTube. Yvonne says like, "Hey, nice tip for head." Yeah, this is so annoying. I don't know what Ida is finding annoying. Maybe the live stream. Yeah, and Mart says, "Too bad you didn't make it when I was your student." No, maybe you inspired it though, so you should feel happy about that.
You can get it from Git. So
Yeah, it's a fully full. It has a really cool website. It's just a Git repository, but if you want it, GitHub, Siri, DMP. I don't know why I think this browser would have auto completion for that. Yeah, I'm going through Burp, so do something horrible. I will do a accept and continue. I don't know if the page will actually load now. It doesn't like not being in the browser. So it has a beautiful website thingy, which is just the Git repository. It still does not have a logo, but I've created a placeholder for a logo in the hope that one day it will have a logo. And it has really good documentation on how to use it and what you can do. The easiest thing, if you have a Rust installation in Cargo, you can just do cargo install head, and it will work. But it's a cool tool. I'm quite happy with it. So it's quite useful. So let's see. We've talked our way through the scan probably, and nothing that we do not already know.
GoBuster did find something.
Oh, what did you find then?
Something called admin.
That's
Admin.
strange.
Yeah.
What word list did you use?
That's common.
Here I am talking about how cool it is and how sensible. Let's see. I forget the syntax. I always forget the syntax. It's a horrible thing there, and it's -u, I believe, right? -u, yeah. -u forge.htb, and then the word list -w. Share. And now the horrible thing happens is that, yeah, there we go. Derp, word lists, common.txt. One reason why I don't really like Parrot is that they messed with the word lists. For instance, RockQ is not part of the default thing, which is a horrible thing to do. That makes cycling wheels. Nice. I did not know that. Mine. Did you use common?
Yeah,
interesting. Interesting. Let's just do admin. See if that works.
No, not like that.
Oh no! I know what you did. Yeah, we will get to that. Yeah. Just on the website, it did not find anything. No. One thing is really interesting. This has a local file upload. We tried that. We can upload something, or probably could upload a picture of a cat or something like that. File we can just read, so it does not have any filtering on that. So that's interesting. And this URL is also quite interesting. As we're on Hack the Box, we don't have access to the world. We could try uploading something from our machine. Is that something? Let's see, Brian. Yeah, he says first on subdomains. Yes, we will get to that indeed. We will show that in a little bit. First, let's finish up on this website. It's very tempting to just jump ahead and not look at this right away.
True.
Because this website has some very interesting features. Among this upload URL thing. Do you have so? What did you try when you found this URL thing?
First thing, I just tried to upload the just a URL and then use scroll to see what it did.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Let's first see if we can upload something or let it connect to our machine. Let's start there. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So um, -m. We'll use Python to just start a server on our machine. Um, this little one-liner command. It's a really nice way to say, like, well, in Python there's a module called HTTP, which has a server component. With the -m we can enable that, and then we can just get a web server running. Renee says maybe we can upload its own homepage, which could be quite interesting. Maybe we get a different result from
Yeah,
that
didn't
than
try that
from
one.
our. Yeah. So let's
And
let's see. Let's play with this for a little bit. So we have a web server on port 8000 in Parrot in Pwnbox. In the top, it has a VPN thingy. It says my IP is 10.10.14.72. So let's give that a try. 10.10.14.72 port 8000. So if we're right, we could upload something to the server from our machine.
mm-hmm.
We have no idea yet how to use this, but let's give it a try. It says file uploaded successfully, and let's click on this. It's not an image, spoiler alert, but we have Burp, so we should be able to see. And what does it say? Let's make this a little bit bigger so that people can read it. It actually says, hey, this is a directory listing /. So it took the entire web page and stored it as a file, which is quite awesome. There's many things here. This basically a listing of where I am. It's right here. Let's make a new terminal, ls-l. It's basically the listing that we see here. Normally, I will say this. Normally, I'm very organized with my with where I do stuff, but this Pwnbox, it's like an ephemeral machine, so it boots. It's completely new, and when you shut it down, everything is gone. So I started not caring. So please do not do what I do. That's all I'm going to say. So we basically get a listing that we would get from the web server here, and we see that it can actually do stuff, and it stores it on a machine. And Renee, he says, like, upload its own homepage, which is quite interesting. Where's my browser thing here? Because yeah, we have this upload from URL. Let's give that a try. Localhost. So what will happen? This request will go to the server. The server will execute it and connect to localhost. So for that server, that would be the machine itself. And sometimes you will see that a website will have other functionality depending on where you're from. Some things actually use IP blocks to determine if you're inside an office building and allow you to do different functionality, or if you're outside and do less functionality. So it's quite interesting. Let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. It says URL contains a blacklisted address.
Try doing that with the home address, 127.0.0.1.
Yeah, that's true. 127.0.0.1 is alias for, or it's the IP address for localhost. So let's give that a try. Bam! Also blacklisted. That's quite interesting. Let's think about how Um, Baga has a very good question in the chat. He says, curious if you initially did more checks on the file upload, not via URL. Yes, I tried uploading all kinds of files, PHP files, stuff like that, to see how it would react. I also uploaded cat pictures, which was quite fun. But yeah, I don't know what all you put in the local file.
I've
Paper.
tried all kinds of things there, just to see
Yeah.
what happens, and yeah, I didn't get anywhere, so I abandoned that one and went through the URL upload.
Yeah, same here. In this local file thing, I tried. We don't really know what type of machine this is. So I tried PHP. I tried Python. Also tried a shell script to see if maybe there would be a application that would check the directory and possibly execute stuff, which is a totally long shot. So.
Yeah, but you have to try.
Yeah. Renee has a very interesting remark in the chat. Could this be the trick to get the FTP URL? Which is quite interesting, right? Because if you remember from earlier, let's open a new terminal nmap. We can do forge.htb. As we were talking about the port 21, it's filtered. It meant that there's probably a firewall. So that was also one of my ideas with the URL. Maybe we can get some server-side request forgery. And server-side request forgery is an amazing, interesting technique. Because we live in a time of microservices in which a system offloads a lot of work to different parts and does not always store its own data. And one beautiful technique that comes from that is that we can give URLs to server components, and the server component will actually use that URL to grab some information. And that's what we see here. But what if it can be used to grab some information that we're normally not allowed to be looking at? One interesting thing is that what I also noticed is that this FTP is filtered. And as it is filtered, we're not allowed to look at it, but maybe the server itself is allowed to look at it. So that's one thing that I also thought about. Baga has some really interesting things that he noted. SQLi, PayPay, shell scripts, various forms of GIFs, extensions, SVG payloads, image tragic. Yeah, that could work. That's quite interesting. And Renee would also upload a PHP file. Yeah. So yeah, that's and let's see. There's quite some interesting things here. One is this blacklist. How would a application blacklist stuff?
It depends, but one you did not try, and that's Forge HTTP as URL, because you did localhost and the IP address, but
Forge.htb. Bam, it's also blacklisted. Yeah,
that would be nice.
That would be nice. We do this now through this this form thing here. One reason I like to use Burp for this allows us to do it a little bit quicker. Is Burp has this feature called a repeater. So this is the post that we've been doing. You see, there's a bunch localhost 127 Forge, and we can send this to repeater with Control R or right mouse click, send to repeater. And then in the repeater, we close the inspector. It's a quite annoying thing. It will show the request, and the beauty of Burp is that it will take whatever we type into this pane, then it will transform it into what is readable for the server and then send it to the server. So in this case, Forge, let's check if it works. It should be blacklisted, contains a blacklist URL. Yeah, this is quite interesting because a application can blacklist stuff. And let's see, Dippler says maybe we should URL encode a domain. Jennifer says blacklist maybe with a text like robots. Yeah, there's a bunch of different ways. Could be that certain domains are blacklisted. Could also be that they just use string processing. But let's use head again. Not because I want to advertise head, but I want to show something which is quite interesting. Parrot, as a default, has different 127 addresses, and they all point to the same thing, the machine itself. So actually, what I also did, I took this 127001 and showed me, hey, it's a blacklist. So, okay, maybe it blacklists the protocol being used, but we already tried that and talked to my machine. So it's not the protocol. So if I want to talk to the FTP server, I need something that is local, but is still usable. And 127001 was not, and localhost was not. But most machines, which is also quite evident here, have a different IP address still available or mapped or available for the localhost. Plus, it actually has the fully qualified domain name and the short name, which is quite interesting. And to add to the possibilities, there's also 127111, which also represents home. So the entire 127 range, I don't know if that actually goes up. Let's try 127 something around. Yeah. Everything in the 127 range is actually localhost. So if they actually did some blacklisting only based on certain conditions, we might just be able to get around it. Okay. I found what kind of, that's nice. Dippler, do share. He found out what kind of backend it is. Maybe he found out by actually looking at source on the machine. So we'll wait. What the difference is between filter domains like small and capital letters. That's a good question. We'll get to that, I guess. Because, yeah, if a web application has a blacklisting, it all depends on how it's implemented. So let's give this a try with 127111 and see what happens. Yay! And I just said I will do that in Burp, and then I did something completely different. I did it again. There's Burp. Burp. So what does this thing say? With 127111, it actually gives us the entire listing. So that works. So we know we can connect to the machine. Oh yeah, nice. Dippler has a very good observation, which we not run into yet. He says if there's a error message, it will show you that it's a Python application. So let's give that a try. And how would we be able to do an error message? Well, do you have any suggestions what we could do to make an error message? I'll use that as an excuse to drink something.
It's a nice one. No, nope.
No. Well, I assume that I'm very famous, so I know everybody knows me. So I'll just type in some invalid protocol. Oh, bummer. HTTP. It also says, well, it should either be HTTP or HTTPS, which is quite interesting. Right, bam, there we go. Now we see that it's actually a URL lib tree, so we know it's Python. So we figured that out. It says cannot connect to it. Okay, that's horrible. And there's also robots.txt, I guess, that does that. Okay. Yeah. So let's see. What can we do? Let's try out the FTP server. I was quite curious with that myself. But given the message, it only supports HTTP and HTTPS. So that's horrible. So we tried grabbing the machine from the inside, did not show anything different than what we had. No special features, the upload is still there. So at this point, I basically kicked it and said like, well, I'm on a dead end. I don't know if you tried anything else in the web application.
I didn't, because I just started GoBuster and found the other one. So then I was using that one.
Yeah. At this point, we've looked at the features of the web application. As noted in the chat, looking at it means trying stuff with it. We've tried some things, but I think I spent like half an hour trying different types of URLs and stuff like that. One thing I noted was there was some I will do what I said I would do. There's some interesting things going on. I guess this is less legible than WebInfo. I'll do it here. There's something interesting going on if we look at Forge, because I tried this as we saw in this output of this wonderful tool that I wrote. Where is it? Sure. Is that the short name of a machine is also available. And I spent quite a lot of time trying to figure out how the blacklisting actually happens. So if I do Forge, it actually works. And you can assume that I tell truth and that this is actually the page thing. So the short name works. And HTTP forge.htb is blacklisted. And then I got to thinking, what is blacklisted? Is that the name of the machine? Is that .htb? So I did forge.ht, and what I saw was takes a little while. We see it spin. There's actually a connection timeout because it cannot resolve it. Then I tried HTTP HTB to see if HTB itself was in a blacklist, which also shows the same thing. And then I tried HTTP .htb. So if .htb or everything in the HTTP domain is blacklisted, this will stop working. So I did this. Again, we have to wait. It also doesn't work. So it means this is not blacklisted. Forge itself is not blacklisted. Forge.htb is blacklisted. So I played with this, and I must say, Dippler said, well, you could try URL encoding a thing. So that's quite interesting. I'll give that a try. URL encode B. I think it's 42. 42. It's always 42. Right, there's B. We can URL encode stuff. So let's take this one maybe. So forge percent 45. If this is the URL encoded version of the letter E, if this URL encoding works, what should happen is that this is sent to the server reads it, and first does the blacklist check, and then does the URL decoding, or at least that's the idea. So let's see what happened. That's nice. I did not try that, and quite nice that this works. That's quite interesting. Let's see what it actually sent. Post upload percent 25. That works. That is quite nice. That is quite nice. I did not look at that. Let's try some other characters. Because actually the thing that I ended up trying, and I don't know about you, Peter, but I tried the capitalization. So
Yep, same here.
Yeah. So let's give that another try. Forge, and then 61 or something, is it 62? The lowercase version, is it 62? 65, almost did it. What's 62? Forb. That should not work, Forb. Well, at least we see what happens, right? The percent is changed to a letter. If we do it again, if we do it again and change to percent 65, it should be translated into an E. And if this works, it means first the blacklist check is done, and then the URL decoding. And that's the case. So that actually works. That's cool. That's a new way. Cool. Let's see if the chat. No, URL shortener won't work. No. Rule asks, could a URL shortener work, like tinyURL? In real world scenarios, maybe. In a hack the box scenario, it is probably limited, or it is limited to the hack the box network, and there's no URL shortener there. So in the real world, it might work. So that's quite interesting. That's a new way that we found. I actually ended up doing just capitalization because in my mind, this developer, they receive the URL, the HTTP request, they take the URL being used and compare that to a list of blacklists. And then I thought, well, if they only compared it to lowercase things, or only lowercase and only uppercase, maybe if you vary in the casing, it actually matters. Capitalization does not matter for URLs per spec, but depending on the web application, it might work or not. So yay, that was cool. That worked. I was quite happy with that, and then I was stuck. Boss also said, I just did it with capital letters. That also works. Yeah.
Yep.
And there's a million ways. So given that this is a medium machine, it is quite common to find something that gives you some hints, but then you need to discover something else. And there's a lot of things to discover. It's all about enumeration, basically. Because we only asked it, hey, what services do you have? And what is running on port 80? And we started looking at the thing in port 80. We can also use, like you said, GoBuster to actually do something else. GoBuster has a set of tools, basically. And up to now, we've only been using the directory or file enumeration mode. But there's different things. You can even do S3 buckets if you want. But you can query DNS, or rather, you can fuzz DNS. And what does that do? Basically, GoBuster thinks of a name, for instance, aryan.forge.htb, and then tells my local machine, yo, that machine, that name is actually at the machine for forge.htb. And then it sends the request to that machine. So it will just ask, like, what happens if I ask for aryan.htb.forge.htb? And if the machine answers with something different than it would on forge.htb itself, then it says, like, well, this name is apparently interesting to this machine and might be worth checking out. So it basically tries all these different types of names. So how does that work? GoBuster DNS -- help. There's a couple of flags that we need to set. One is the D for domain, forge.htb, because we want to ask, like, do you know more about this machine? And we need a word list, I guess. And now it's a good question, what word list do you use? You already said you use common. I actually
just to start with.
Yeah, I have another list that I'd like to use for this, which is in the seclist repository. Seclist is a collection of lists, and it has a special directory for discovery stuff. If you look at that, there's things like web content that actually was used by Ferox Buster, but there's also DNS. And if we look at that, there's a couple of files, not too many. I just like to use this one first. On Hack the Box, it's never, unless it's a hard machine or it's a really badly made machine, it's never in this huge list because should be fun, right? But what these lists are, they are basically a collection of subdomain names found on the internet. So all the things companies use put in a file. So I just used this one. Have you ever looked at this, Peter?
Nope.
No.
But it's nice. It will shorten the scan time.
Yeah, it is. It's quite nice, and there's lots of lists. It also has RockQ in it. And RockQ is no longer in Parrot, or at least Parrot in Pwnbox, so you need to have it in order to do all the brute forcing and stuff that we need to do on some things. I think I've done all there is for the options.
You can grab the 200, so.
Yeah, let's see what happens. No, I did something wrong. The -R maybe? No. Did I do something wrong? It's domain, forge, thread. Maybe I used the wrong list. Use more. Use more. Let's wait for it. I'm actually looking at my notes to see if I actually did something wrong with the command. It's always something I typed wrong.
So I used the vhost version.
Yeah, that's what I didn't want to have the domain names. Well, this actually is one thing I did as well. And then everything that I explained, there's also let's do the GoBuster. Buster -- help. There's actually also the vhost enumeration, which is different than DNS in that DNS will actually try to query, is this a valid host name? And vhost will actually do the request and see if the difference in the request itself. So yeah. Even the most fun people make mistakes. let's do the 5,000 list and see
You
what
need to
happens.
change the -d to -u.
Yeah, there we go, because it needs a URL and not a domain name.
Yep.
Yeah, and then this interesting thing happens. I will quit it. Is that everything is apparently something, which is a total not happy type situation. But notice that it says status 302. So it tries this domain name or this vhost, goes to the machine, and the machine says, well, maybe, but look there, and that's interesting. But yeah, GoBuster helps us in there that it has an option called -r, follow redirects, and then look at the thing that it goes to. And so we should be getting rid of all the extra stuff. So let's see. And there, indeed, it has a different host name.
And the other way is just to grab the 200s at the end. Just pipe it and grab 200. And that way you only get admin.
Yeah, that's also interesting. Yeah, let's do that afterwards. It's already done. Yep. So you just did grab 200 because you don't want to see what it does. Yeah, it does the same thing.
Only now you find 3. No. 3 times admin. You've got admin with
admin. Oh, 2009, 2008.
Yeah, and the 5,000 doesn't include the capital admin as well.
All right, true. So admin is an additional host name that we can look at. If we would just type that in, admin.forge.htb, it does not work. It's an unknown host. ESP in the chat on Discord also says, yeah, you could just tee it and grab. No need for a second scan. True story. I have my money on that ESP at the end of this walkthrough will pop up in the chat with a script that does a 0 to root instant thing. So, yeah. And let's see if there's any things in the chat. Now, for the most part, do you teach your students the shorthand flags, or do you go for the full flags, follow redirect or -r? That's quite interesting. Barre actually puts out a very, I guess, a conscious question. Do you teach them shorthand or longhand? Well, I actually tell my students to use -- help and then figure it out. But yeah, I would go for shorthand. But I think the most important thing is that you realize that there's a help page, right? Yeah. Rookie Excel in the Discord says, where should I download Burp? Well, it's in your Kali or Parrot by default, but if you want to download it, it's just one Google search away, Burp Suite, and will be the first hit. Cool. Yeah, so we need to add admin to our host file. Let's use head for that again. Admin.forge.
Didn't see that one coming.
That show, it will actually add it as a subdomain for Forge, which is quite nice. So let's see what happens when we go to admin. And the plot thickens. Only localhost is allowed.
Oh, let's copy this one.
Well, thank God for our gallery application.
Yep.
So yeah, basically there's an administrative interface available on this machine, but only if you're on that machine or on the client network. But in this case, on the machine. Well, we already discovered this feature, this upload URL thingy. So we should be able to just grab the admin interface by just going and clicking our way through it. So we will enter admin.forge.htb, and this obviously, just to ensure that it does, is blacklisted because it contains forge.htb as a URL. So we need to do a capitalization. Doesn't really matter which letter you do. Apparently it does the forge.htb. When we are on the machine, we can take a look at the application and see how it works. In the chat, Globemaster says, "Well, I was just giving it a try with caps lock on, and so it worked instantly." That can also happen. Right? That's true. So let's give this a try. It actually worked. Let's click on it. This will not work, but we have burp, 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 which will tell us this beautiful thing right here. The request itself is not very nice or useful, but it says like, hey, 200, okay, it's an image, but actually the HTML page for the admin portal. So we actually were able to grab the admin portal from this beautiful environment, which is awesome. And it is truly an admin portal in that it says,
Hello.
"Welcome, admins." So that's how you know you made it, right? Yeah, cool, huh? So what did you do now?
First, I looked at the announcements.
Yeah,
It was nice when I got this. It was like, hey, nice. Oh, bummer.
yeah,
Not that much info, but okay. Let's open the announcement and see what we can see there.
Yeah, true story. True story. So yeah, there's this admin portal thing. Not very interesting. It says welcome, but there's a navigation section. It says, hey, there's a portal homepage, which is welcome, and next one is the announcements, and then there's apparently an upload feature, which might be the same as our current upload feature, but this announcements is new, not part of our normal application. So we have new URLs indeed. Renee is totally right. Yeah, that's quite nice. Another thing that we can use this thing for is to actually build a poor man's port scanner to see what ports are open on the other side. But we'll leave that as an exercise to the reader. How you would do that is to actually say like, hey, I have this forge.htb, and maybe I want to try port 8000. Why not?
21.
And it says, hey, I cannot connect. We could also try forge.htb port 21 and do
Capital
that.
D on the end.
Yeah, totally right. Totally right. Almost had it. Port 21. And it says connection aborted. So it's different than something else. And in this case, using this technique, we can see that we can actually connect to the Forge internal FTP server. Problem is that we cannot send any other things like we cannot react to the user prompt and try stuff. So that's a bad thing. But we can actually, if you automate this, you can just make script and outline all the open ports on the machine. There's at least one student in this group that actually probably remembers writing a port scanner on some poor company's web server that had a SSRF testing page thingy. It's quite nice. So yeah, we can do beautiful things with this, but for now we have this announcements page to take a look at. So let's do the long way around. Yeah, and then announcements. Submit it. It's successful. We'll click it and we'll go to Burp. Our get here, right? Nice. We have new information. It actually has some beautiful text. It says an internal FTP server has been set up with the credentials user : height of security 123 exclamation mark. Beautiful. Let's copy that.
Yeah, save it.
Save it. Oh God, I need a. Would this thing have a notepad thingy?
Yeah, somewhere on the programming.
VS Codium. No, I don't want. I just want a mousepad or something other.
Nope. On the
No.
programming, you have some text
Genie.
editor.
Yeah, Genie. Sublime. We'll just do Genie. Genie. Yeah, horrible. But yeah, okay. So we have a username and a password. User : height of security 123, which is quite interesting. User in an FTP server, there's different ways FTP servers can be configured. It could be that this is a user only known to the FTP server. Could also be that this is a system user, so one that is known to the Linux system as well. Something to remember. I'll copy over this thingy as well, because one thing that we noted from our exercise with the other interface is that the other interface only allowed HTTP and HTTPS, and this upload actually supports FTP and FTPS, and S is for secure, and FTP itself is the plain text protocol. Barre says, you get bonus points for tmugs, but due to not using Vim, you're losing them. I have an opinion on Vim, but let's continue. And it says the endpoint here. This text is a little bit bigger. It's quite interesting. It says the upload endpoint has been configured for easy scripting of uploads, and for uploading an image, one can simply pass a URL with ? U and then the URL. And this lesser than LT and GT, that is HTML talk for this. So, well, that's cool. That's cool. So let's ponder that. So basically, what does it say? It says we have an upload thingy that is admin.forge.htb/upload, and this is easily scriptable by means of that we can upload an image. One can simply pass a URL with ? U is, and then the URL. Yeah. Did you try anything special at this point?
I just tried logging in using this URL setup to log in as user on the FTP server.
Yeah.
Just-
That was also on top of my mind, especially the over obvious hint.
That one combined with the second one. Yeah.
It says, well, it supports FTP. We have an FTP server, and how would you connect with an FTP server? Well, maybe it's because I've been around the internet for a long time, but actually most URLs, most schemes, it is a protocol, then a separator of the : //. You can do user, password, add, then the host name, port, and then where you want to go. This actually works for most protocols. Actually also works for HTTP if you want to have a specific authentication scheme. But given the knowledge of this, how would you know this, right? That's always
being around too long.
being around too long, listening to me chat about stuff. But there's actually FTP protocol. I need to URI protocol syntax. I guess it is also connected to. I need to turn off my burp. To actually having programming experience. We talked about it before in the Discord. Some people have had lots of programming experience. Some people might not have. But one thing that you at one point start doing is you start implementing tools that might talk to different types of servers. And then you find out that there's actually standards for the way things work. And they're called RFCs. And the RFC, I don't know if which one actually does the authentication part. We'll leave that as a exercise for the reader. But there's RFCs that define how stuff works. So let's take a look at RFC 1738. RFC 1738. That's totally managed by the IETF, the Internet Engineering Task Force. And it looks like old stuff, and it is old stuff. And up to today, RFCs have the same format. It's basically readable as plain text. This one is actually made by Tim Berners-Lee itself in 1984. Let's see if password is in here. Right. Nice. First try, I have it. So it basically says there's a whole bunch of protocols from FTP to mail to NNTP, Telnet, list goes on. And there's a common internet scheme syntax. And that says, well, we have a protocol, separator of slashes, and then user, password, @host, @port, and then whatever you want. And most of these things are optional in the sense that user and password, if you don't pass them and you don't need authentication, you don't need them. Port, we've made optional. HTTPS and HTTP 443 and 80, they have well-known ports. And so we say, like, we know the scheme that you're using, so we know the port you're using. So really cool. I'll put that in the chat as well so people can look at that. It's in the Discord chat. I'll put it in the YouTube chat as well. So hey, there we go. So yeah, beautiful thing. So that's how you would know. I'm thinking most people only know this because they see it in write-ups now. But it's good to know where it's from. So given this, we could say that we have a username and password. We know that it is valid for the FTP server. Then we say we need to connect to the FTP server. From our experience with blacklisting, we know we can do different things. Let's do localhost. Let's do 127.111. We don't need to do the ports.
Just cap forge.htp. Yeah. That's also an option.
We'll yell. How about that? We don't need to do the port because we already said that it's FTP, and then it will say, like, all right, then we'll do port 21. What I showed with the port scanner, if you give a port different to the protocol, it will try that protocol on that port. So when we did the port scanner thing, it actually tried to do HTTP request to that port, and it got some data back, but it did not understand. So let's give this a try, see where we end up. We do this at the end of the U, because that's what it said. Like, you can upload an image, and one thing that HTTP boxes have is if you have a challenge like this, it will probably have like an entry point that is similar to the thing that you actually have to use. So yeah, normally in a real scenario, I would first try out what would work in a U. In a real scenario, there would not be a page that says like, "Hey, this is the username password."
No.
But yeah, I
But
would
hey,
just
we need to get the user. So
yeah, true story, true story. We cannot fish it here. So yeah, let's give this a try.
just
Before I do this,
yeah.
I need to yell here as well. It's copy that. Let's just send that. So well, we've been doing it through the browser the entire time. So let's be a little bit neat and clean up here. We don't need this anymore. Don't need this. We'll go back here and we'll do our Foxy Proxy. We'll turn it on so we can see the result. And bam! See what happens. And we did a good thing, I guess. Let's see what the result is. Get it right here. And this is beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then you can use the FTP protocol to just download the user.txt.
Yeah, true. Yeah, there's some very interesting things here. We can access the FTP server. We see a listing, and apparently, one thing that this instantly triggers for me is that user is actually a system level user. Not only through the user.txt, but also through this snap thingy. We saw that it's a Ubuntu machine on the Nmap scan. So this is probably the user home directory. That's the first thing that pops into my mind, which is quite interesting. But we can get this user.txt. I don't know who 1000 is. Maybe that would be us, user. It is owned and this is us. So we're not allowed to actually write to it, but we are in the group, so we are able to read it. So let's grab this thing. In a real scenario, I've seen it. I've seen it on internal URLs at big companies. Yeah, I've also seen this many times. And most interestingly, in that an entire network was trusted to actually do management of the home of the main switches. So you could just from any machine on that network, you could just query the switches and do actions. That was quite nice. Could switch off the machine. Anyway, let's continue. User.txt is the thing that we want to look at. One thing to note is that we have not found anything yet to actually give us access, right? So we need to think about that. I have some ideas, and I tried a lot of interesting things. So the user.txt will do this, we'll do that. And in Burp, we'll see the result again. And indeed, it shows a hash. So we have access to it. We have our user flag. Yeah. Michael has a good remark. 1000 is the first user or group created after a Linux installation. True story. Yeah. And 0 is 0. It's the root, I think. I always forget. I need to look it up always. So yeah, we have this. Yeah, what did you try after this? Because you have this. You added this to the thing saying, "Hey, I have this," and enjoyed a fresh cup of coffee.
Yay! And then like and now.
Yeah, because if we go back to the directory listing, it is quite interesting. One thing we can try is to see if ... actually gives up. That's stuff that I tried. It's quite interesting to see. So instead of user.txt, I did dot dot. See what happens then. If it's a good FTP server, it will not work. Well, we'll do something, but it should not list anything. See if it's a good FTP server. It is indeed a good FTP server. So that was sad. That was sad. René says the flag needs to be posted somewhere. That is true. We quickly skipped over that. This flag is actually the user flag. It tells Hack the Box that we have achieved access to the user's files. And on Hack the Box, if we go to the machines, good point, René, thank you. If we go to Forge, we have, I've already done this, but here it is, the submit flag. If you click this, it will ask you to submit a flag. You cannot type it over. It changes every time you reboot or spin up a machine, so your flag will be different. But you put it in here, and then you say, like, I found this really difficult, or piece of cake. I think this was not too easy, medium, a bit hard, depending on how first you are in web technologies like server-side request forgery. I think it's medium is a really good measure for this. For me, I would go for the easy part. I try to look at it from the perspective of people that are not professional at what they do and do it for their hobby, and then it should be somewhere in the medium range. So I think I quite agree with the difficulty here. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was stuck at this point, so what I did, got a cup of coffee, reviewed the notes, and then I realized something. There was port 22 was open.
Yeah.
And I was
What did you do?
okay, let's see what we can do with the FTP. There are some nice default locations to save some files. And one of those is an private key for SSH.
Yeah.
And
okay,
I tried to get that.
Yeah. I was looking. On my actual machine, I have a list of common file names that I try. René suggests something else. Maybe have a look at the snap folder. So let's first do that. Snap, power of the universe. I don't know where that came from, but it's snap. I got power. That's what my mind is jumping to. Let's do the snap. Let's click it. Let's look at the results. It says 500, and this could be something interesting. Could be that the directory is not readable for us. Let's take a look at it. It is readable, or that it in another way is limited for us. I actually did something quite silly. We see these directories. One thing that is obviously missing, if we take a look at a regular home directory, is that and in order to get some points, .zshrc. So we have Vim. Every distribution has their own files that they put in the home directory. There's different things, but most of them have at least some dot directories, and dot directories are special in the sense that they are hidden from your normal point of view. Yeah, and we don't see any of the dot files in that listing. So it seems to me that the FTP server is hiding them. And normally on an FTP server, you would log in, and then with listing, you would get a list of the files. And then on the FTP server itself, you would do ls-a to actually enable listing of the dot files, which is quite interesting. So now, as this is a hack the box machine, and it is medium, and these are the only things that we have, there has to be some point of entry. We've exhausted all the things on the web application, SQL injection, stuff like that. Normally would have tried that. So there's not a whole bunch of things left. So I actually did what you suggest as well. I actually started looking at known files. And if you think like, why would you jump to that conclusion? A common way to enable management for users on a machine is to use keys for SSH, so you don't have to put your username in all the time. And look at what happens when you generate a key. And this Spirit, maybe it does it differently, but enter the file name. Everybody does this, enter. Create it, enter passphrase. Everybody does the following thing, enter, enter. And then it generates stuff. And what we see is that it has been saved in the .ssh directory with the name id_rsa and id_rsa.pub. But it doesn't need to be named like this, right? There's no need for it. You can choose it yourself. But there's one file that is always called the same thing. And in order to actually use a key to log in somewhere, there is a file with Peter, or what is it called?
Pass WD.
No, not that one. Not that one.
Which one did you mean? Sorry, I was distracted.
Authorized keys. Authorized, that's one SSH, authorized keys, yeah. In order to be able to use SSH keys to log into a machine, the SSH key needs to be known. And this file, authorized_keys, is the thing that actually lists the keys that are allowed to log into this machine. So this is the first thing I went to, simply because if this file exists, then it should be able to log in with keys, and then I can go hunt for keys. In the worst case, you would create a brute forcer for that entire listing and try stuff. But let's try to grab this file and see if it exists. So .ssh / authorized keys. And one thing I do note is that most write-ups jump over this thing and says, well, I'll just do this thing with keys. Let's see what this brings us. Upload, and bam, here we go. It says this is the contents of the authorized keys file. So with that one request, we found out, oh, actually SSH is enabled and allows at least this user at Forge, and this would be the public key, which is an RSA key. And this is where this is useful because it actually allows us to figure out what the file name would be. There's actually different ways to generate keys, and RSA is one. So this says that user at Forge, or at least the key known as user at Forge, this public key is allowed to log in. So let's take a look at the page here. It says like blah blah, and there's a lot of ways to be able to log in. ID RSA, ID DSA, ID underscore EC DSA, blah 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 blah. So yeah, I basically have a list which basically has all these names, and then you can give them a try. Let's see what SSH by default generates, and that's ID underscore RSA, and there's a public and a private version. The public one is the one that you put on a machine so that you can log into it. And that means you need to have the private one in order to actually log into the machine. So you basically give the server one part of your key in order to establish a truthful connection. So yeah, the most interesting thing here is this file, ID underscore RSA. So let's give this a try, see if that actually works. ID underscore RSA. Copy it. Almost. Upload from URL. Well, give me the file ID RSA. I'll click it here. And we'll go into Burp. See what it does. And indeed.
Nice. Copy.
Bam! Magic. Magic. This is quite. This is the point where I get really excited because I know I can actually enter this machine. I will actually do this. I'll use curl because I don't like to copy and paste. See if I'm faster than the deletion mechanism. Forge.html. Hop. Yeah. Key. Nice. So in this way, I do not make any mistakes with copy and pasting. Yeah, the
empty
key
line at the end.
Yeah, indeed. And you don't want to have stuff like that. So yeah, beautiful. Let's see if there's any questions before we actually go into actually being a user on this machine. Let's see. Dippler says, upload, just gave me the admin. Should I add a file to the FTP URL? No, we actually discussed this already. The problem here, Dippler has in the chat on Discord, is that user at should be user : height of security.
And the admin forge.html is small.
Yeah, true. It should actually be capitalized as well.
Yep.
So, the funny thing, Andre says, in my line of work, I work a lot with SSH and keys, but I never look for it. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Quite nice. Quite nice. Let's see. Any extra thingies? There's a whole bunch of people. Very welcome. Oh, Andre has his food. That looks nice. Shawarma. Oh, nice. Nice. Very good. Very good. Yeah. So we have that. Let's see. Michael is already further along. Nice.
We'll get there.
Yeah, Dippler, well done. I've taken some drinks. I'm a happy camper now. shall we gain some access? Shall we just do it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Let's do it.
Beautiful. Do it. Yes. Thank you, Golden. Um, yeah. One really interesting thing about SSH and keys is that the people that created SSH say that they want some assurance that the key that you're using is actually your key and not something that you read somewhere. So let's see what happens. There's if we take a look at the help file, it lists a lot of things. It's a very bad help thingy. Maybe it's not just minus help. Does that help? No, it's just really bad. And that's why I am very grateful for all the rewrites in Rust because they have really good help pages. But anyhow, SSH, if you look at this stuff, one thing that you might notice is identity file here, -i. This help is useless, basically. So let's do mon SSH, which is better. Let's take a look at the identity file. The identity, yeah, identity file. There we go. -i identity file. Select a file from which the identity private key, so that private should be private key. The default is ID blah blah blah, and you see this default name being there. May also be specified on a per host blah blah blah. And it does not really say anything about rights. Let's see, there should be a 600 thingy. No, it does not say it. Let's see what happens if we do it. So we have the key stored on our file system as key. And we know that the user is user at forge.htb. We know this because in the public key that we grabbed, it actually said user at Forge. And Forge is a short name for forge.htb. But we know the username is user. So we can assume that. So that's, and we don't have anything else to go on anyways. So if we do this, it says, do you accept this? Well, normally you would have to go to the system administrator and say, is this the hash and stuff like that? Pretty much everybody in the world does yes. And it says, warning, unprotected private key file. Permissions are 644 for key or to open. It is required that your private key files are not accessible by others. This private key will be ignored. And then says goodbye. So the permissions are to open, which is a really nice thing is that they say, well, it's 0644. But it does not give you any hint as to how to fix it, which is, again, a horrible thing to have. But if we look at key, I do Alice. This is like my OCD. I've been typing -al and I put it in the alias. But anyway, it says read, write, read, read. So read is actually the 4-bit. Write actually makes this 644. Yeah, and what should it be? It's to open, so it means that others and the group and others can read this file. And so we need to change that to only me, and we can do that by giving it permission 600. Actually, the mon mod page will probably have some good explanation about all the numbers somewhere. No, I don't have it. And if you hear birds in the background, that's the alarm going off in the room next to me that tells my son that it's time to shut down everything and get ready for bed. But he forgot his phone upstairs and he's downstairs, so it will probably keep ringing. Anyway, so kids, right? So we have this key. It now has the permissions read, write. Brian says do 700. 700 is also quite interesting. What would that be is that the key is now executable as well, which is well, it's not a program, so let's not do that. We'll just do 600.
The other way to do it is just use sudo. It will also work if you're lazy.
Yeah, okay, yeah, true story. I hear a lazy person working. So yeah, is it possible to clear the YouTube comment in the screen? Didn't see the key thing. Thanks. Okay. Oh yeah, I did that. All right. Good thing you said it on there. I also need to remember to clear my screen so people can see it. So yeah, 600. And just for Andre, there's a curl command that I used to grab it. And that was basically doing the request to key. So yeah, now we have it working. I hear a good engineer. Yeah, that's my up key. See, I do up until I get to the command that I wanted. sh minus I key user at forge.htb. And that should actually work. It takes a little bit longer. And indeed, we see that we are a user. We are user 1000 in the group 1000, part of groups 1000. So yay! Let's see, Sulp has this entire thing. Right. Sulp actually made a curl thing. Let's copy it. Copy it. Let's see if we can make that work. In the chat, Sulp made this beautiful thing. It says, do a use curl to do a post command with a data, which means send the text that follows as the data in the string, which is the admin forge, the thing that we used, SD, ID, remote, etc. And send it there, and let's see what it gives back. Oh, that didn't work because blacklisting. We'll do our hack. We'll do that, and now we can grab this thingy and use this as curl, and we will have a key as well. So yeah, that works. I'm sure ESP will, by end of this stream, will have an entire script doing everything automated. So that would be good. So yeah, so we're in the machine. Let's kill this buffer. We're here. Indeed, we're in this entire listing. Another thing that we could have tried was the bash RC or the profile to see if there's actually access to those files. We see the snap directory and SSH. And in the SSH directory, it actually contains the files that we had here. Now, cool. And just to ensure we can access the same hash. So, beautiful. Let's see what did you do now?
Sudo min-l.
Yes.
Sorry, that's the easiest way to...
Yeah, that's true. At Novi, I've been hosting a Friday morning hack session, which does a box walkthrough every week, and that's quite fun. And we started out very easy, all easy boxes. And each time I wanted to introduce linpiece or stuff like that to show them how to do enumeration. And at every easy box, the first thing or the thing that shows how to do stuff is sudo -l. In the previous walkthroughs at the meetup, we have done linpiece already, so I'll take that as known topic, and if you don't know it, we'll cover it later on as well. If we do sudo -l in this machine, it is a medium machine, so it does not give any guarantee that it would actually do stuff. But yeah, it actually lists something that we can do as this user, which is quite nice. I actually had a session with students on Blocky, and students were so so triggered that sudo -l, and one guy said, "Well, we should try doing something different. We'll try su and try to log in as the root user with the password." And I'm like, "Oh, sure, that will not work." And on Blocky, that actually works. So I was like, oh, it's the most easiest thing. Salp says, "Smack the people who sudo the SSH instead of Sambot." Yeah, I have opinions on that as well, indeed. Indeed, it is quite interesting. I have some interesting, let's see. See at Meetup now. Somebody who just came in the chat. Let's do a quick tag right here. But yeah, if you're looking at it as well, take a look at this file. See if you can actually spot what we need to do, because we know we can run this file as the root user. So obviously, given that this is the thing that can be done as root, we have to focus on this thing.
Yep.
Personally, I think this is horrible. It's all green and icky. So I did something different. What I did is I copied it over. -I key user at forge.htb, and then I need to do this thingy here and copy it over to my local machine, and I'll do that for you now as well. And then I use my bat command, and we have syntax highlighting, and we can look at it in a nice and friendly way. I'll zoom out a little bit so you can see it on one screen. I hope it's legible. There's some new people coming into the chat. Let's quickly check the pins for the live stream. Right, there we go. As they say in Dutch, helemaal goed. Great. So we have this script, and this script is quite interesting. What do you see?
Now, first thing that comes in mind is welcome admin. I see a secret admin password.
Yeah.
So copy that one.
Noted.
I see something like a listing port on localhost. So okay, it will start something.
Yeah, on a random port.
Yeah, between. Right, yeah. And then you have a few options, 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it will run something if the input is 1, 2, 3, or 4. So, and it will break if it is something else.
Yeah, it says 1, 2, 3, 4. Else if that is not one of them, it will just go back. This break is part of this 4, so it will break from this while loop.
Yep.
Right here.
And then
so this break will stop this, and then it means it will quit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is quite interesting. I spent quite some time looking at this script because at first there's normal socket binding things if you want to make a server type thing. Nothing interesting in accept. The password, yeah, note that down, that's it. Yeah, and either we have a wrong password or we're admin, and yeah, that's it. And I get really annoyed by the bird sound, so I'm going to do the really responsible parenting, and I'm going to send my wife an SMS that my son should pick up his phone. No, there we go. Yeah, and so it does. It has some quite interesting things here. A few process free memory and listening to sockets. A few listening sockets. So yeah, it's a real admin thingy that you can do.
Hmm.
And then it receives an option. And one thing that triggered my mind is that it assumes what I type in is an integer because it does a conversion from what I type in to int. And so the first thing that goes into my mind is what happens if I don't put in an int? So that's quite interesting. So that's one point that is on my list of hey, what do we do with this? Um, uh, yeah, funny thing when your father is being disturbed because someone is calling. Well, it's actually his alarm of hey, you need to go to bed type thing. So yeah. And so this option is either 1, 2, 3, or 4. But what if it's not 1, 2, 3, or 4? As a rule says, interesting. Punch. Yeah, very good. Um, and Dippler says, uh, uh, today I learned Discord removes capitals from URLs. Ask me how I know. Yeah, yeah. Very good. Let's see. Salp says, in terms of fuzzing, did you look at the path they're taking from the path and far? Yeah, yeah. That's a good point. Take a look at it after this, indeed. Um, yeah, and either says if it's an int or it's not an int, it will then it will crash and the exception will print the error. Yes, true. So
Hmm.
this int will actually cause the program to fail because let's just do this Python int one will give us one obviously, but what if I do a? It will actually give an error and says invalid literal for int with base 10. A. So it actually tries to do a base 10 conversion of what you put in. And that means 0 through 9, basically, or and any combination of that. But A is not that, so it will give you value error. Don't die. Yeah, there we go. So we know it will crash or it will throw an exception. And what happens in exception? It will print, and then it will do something called PDB post-mortem. Do you know what a post-mortem is?
No, I didn't know it when I started, but Google is your friend.
Indeed, indeed. Post-mortem, indeed. And PDB is the Python debugger. Oh, there we go. We don't need this anymore. Advanced. There we go. Accept the risk. PDB. It goes on about the thing, and then we see PDB post-mortem. Enter post-mortem debugging of the given traceback object. No traceback is given. It uses one of the exception that is currently being handled. So it actually drops the program into a debugger, which is quite useful if you're actually writing something and you want to know what's going on. But it's also dangerous as it can be. So basically, it means that if we run this program and we trick it into generating an error, which is not very difficult in the sense that there's a cast going on here, it will go into this exception block, it will print it, and then enter the debugger. And we are running this program with sudo as root, so we will have access to a debugger as the root user, which is quite nice. So let's see what that does. Before we do that, Salp correctly noted. Let's do this. that there is also something going on here. This machine does a lot of interesting things. It resets the environment for when it. Oh, this is my machine, so ignore that one. Sudo, and so I'm all like, hey, wait, I can do everything. What? Same thing here. It does an environment reset, so whatever we put in the environment, it will be reset when this program runs. If you put in a bad password, it will email the admin, and it has a secure path. So even if we would give our own path, you will notice that this program can only launch stuff from this path. So anything in here will be known. So there's no path override that we can do. We cannot shadow commands, stuff like that. And all in all, it's not necessary because we have this beautiful piece of machinery that we can use. So let's do sudo, and we run this, and let's see what happened. Right, listening on localhost 3289. Cool.
Yeah. Open a new shell.
Open a new shell, indeed. We are on the machine. We start the program, so we cannot do it. We could have backgrounded this, but just do a new SSH -i key user at forge.htb. There we go. And now we can use the wonderful program netcat to connect to this machine, localhost 3289. Tmux installed on the client. Yeah, I don't know which Tmux. It is there. It would work. It would work. Yeah, localhost 3289. So now we basically connect to it.
You copied that one.
Secret admin password. I remembered it.
It was quite difficult.
Yeah, it's a horrible password. Or screen it. Yeah, there's many ways indeed. It's quite simple if we're actually on the machine. Tmux. Yeah, as you notice, I also use Tmux. Tmux. I think if you want to invest a little bit of time to make your life easier, learn Tmux. That's what I would say. Yeah, we see the program working. We can actually try stuff. So look at the processes. Let's look at free memory. Why not? And the listening sockets. That all works as advertised. Oh, that's interesting. Anyway, okay. And we see indeed port 21 is listening, but only there's on localhost 3289, and there's port 80 listening to stuff, and port 22 we're connected to it. Apparently, there's also a DNS server on it, which I totally did not look at it, but it's also bound to local. So anyway, local resolving. So let's see what happens when we do our hack. We do an A. And indeed, on the top pane, we see that we are in the PDB. And the PDB is the Python debugger, and that allows us to execute, that does not work, execute Python code. So yeah. Now I wonder what your favorite way is to get a shell in Python. And let's see what people in the chat say that their favorite way is. Because there's, I guess, 2 million ways to do this, what we are going to do now. So let's see. What was your favorite way, Peter?
I just imported something and then yeah, let's wait and see. Oh, yeah, it's already there. So
yeah, there's quite interesting. Yeah,
I had the same one as Dutch Pyro.
Yeah, doing Cetoid on Bash. I personally I first did this import OS and os.system ID. I tried this one simply because you are allowed to do anything you want. So we can start a shell, just do a shell itself. Salp, we'll first do the thing that Salp did. So cut root.txt, and we indeed get the root hash. Mart says, well, you could do a Python one-liner, reverse shell, and then catch it with netcat. Can also be true story. So you can set up a reverse shell. We can do the cut, so we can get access to the file. We can do bin bash, because personally, I don't know how you feel about it, but just only getting the flag feels like cheating. I don't know if you feel the same way, but
you want to have root access.
I want to be able to say like, well, I'm sorry, I'm also going to look at all the other stuff.
Just because I can.
Because I can. So yeah, so I did an OS system, and basically this runs in the sudo session, and thus I'm root. That works. One thing that most people also have in their arsenal is the Pty module. If you have a netcat session and you get on a machine that has Python and that does not have a really good shell, you can use pty.spawn to get a better shell, bin bash. And then we also have a shell itself. Dutch Pyro makes a good point. If you're training for the OSCP certification, you actually have to get a reverse shell or a shell. Just grabbing stuff does not count, and then you have to show the IP config, stuff like that, if config. Let's see what nice. Yeah. Let's grab this. And let's open a netcat -ln vp of 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's open one on my machine. And this is the beauty of tmux, right? You can just create different panes and don't have to worry about switching windows. Let's see what ESP has made. 14.72 is my IP address. Let's see. Pty spawn. End of line. I copied it wrong. No, I copied it wrong. It's all me. It's not him, it's me. Connection refused. Not port 443. I did 1, 2, 3, 4. Almost. And at this point, I will completely lie and say, look, in 1 to go, it worked. And then we have a reverse shell. Also really nice. Yeah. Yeah. Nice. So we have a reverse shell, which is quite nice. It's actually a really nice script. It's called Rev Shell. We had a discussion about this last time. Rev Shell Py. Blub, blub, blub. I don't know if it's this one. Destination port. Yeah, this is it. This is it. This is the thing that I want to show. Rev Shell. I'll put the link in the chat as well. It's a script that generates all kinds of reverse shells. You give it some parameters, and then it generates the shell command that you want. And ESP is pogging his own version. There's many versions. That's a different one. Maybe you can share yours if you have it. Yeah, there's many ways. There's many ways. Um, there's this reverse shell generator. Was the reverse shell generator? Get something like that. 0-day CTF. Yeah, this one is also really great. It basically launches a web console in which you can just say like, well, I'm this IP address, this port, give me one for bash, and that will give you the command that you need to do in order to create a reverse shell there. You can even do encoding and stuff like that. So yeah, there's no need to actually know all these things out of your head. Just saying. So yeah, I guess with that, we can say that we own this machine, right?
Yeah, we got the user, we got the root, and we got the root shell. So.
Yeah. So it was quite nice. I think. Well, I'm quite curious. What do you think was the most interesting thing about this machine? Switch to some less horrible thing to look at.
Getting the user, I liked most. Once you were on the machine with the user in the shell, it was, yeah, we've seen that one before.
Yeah. So. It was a nice trick of using the debugger, but if only the privilege escalation was the machine, it would have been branded as easy. But I thought the entire use of SRF to actually use the FTP server to find files was quite nice. And I must say, I am still waiting. I'm looking in the chat. There's actually, let's give this a try. Let's see what happens. I will share. Add to screen. That's what I wanted. ESP has graced us. Let's zoom into this pane. See if what this does with something that does a echo of stuff. To upload the cut. Cat forge upload grab page or cut. Then see if it does. Cut ID RSA. Oh, almost works. It's almost a one click thing, but almost not really yet. Too bad, ESP. So yeah, the SRF was really nice. I think there's a lot of things to learn in it. The blacklist, it was terribly made. Oh, that reminds me. We said we would take a look at the code of the application, which we can do. Zoom into this. This we can Control-C. Let's see if we can find out how the blacklist was created. Admin or Forge. Oh, it's some kind of horrible thing. This is here we go. This is a form of beautiful Python application, probably a Flask application. I know a lot of people that know a lot of Flask stuff. Let's see. Would it all be in routes? I will go for my bonus points. Routes. Yeah, and here we go. Yep, we don't need to look very far. Blacklist is basically a list of items or strings that the person thought that would be a bad thing. And then a very interesting thing is also that apparently this machine was slated to get a 10.10.10.10 IP address. I don't know. Or maybe it was in their lab that it has 10.10.10. So yeah, it basically did a check on a string list, and we can of course check how that is done. Let's do here blacklist, and basically it says if any I for I in blacklist, if I in URL. So it will basically tell it if the item from the blacklist is actually in the URL, then any will trigger and it will render. It says, hey, sorry, bad juju. So yeah, it's a very terrible implementation of blacklist. So that it's quite nice. Would there be any other interesting bits here? There's an upload folder. One thing it does really well is that it does not trust the file names being used. So there's no point in uploading a PHP or Python file. It will just be called blah or something random. So a random name of 20 characters. So also no overlap or stuff like that. Anything else? Send from directory. Apparently here they first had an implementation that said, well, here have the file, and then you would just get the plain text if you would recall it. Apparently they decided to do it differently and also add the content type of an image, so that you need to go through a proxy or do some automation. All in all, I would say that this machine most of the work can be automated quite nicely, I think. I wonder if I actually did that myself. No, I did not do that. I just did it all by hand. So yeah, beautiful, beautiful machine. I think it was well done. It relies a little bit on enumeration in the sense that you need to figure out that there's a fee host that you need to discover. But apart from that one thing, you don't have a lot of, maybe the SSH directory as well. So two things that lean on discovery. And I would think that the SSH one would be easier than the fee host one. But yeah. All in all, very, very good and nicely done machine. 10 out of 10 would recommend. Right?
Definitely.
Definitely. Well, and with that, I would say awesome that you were here, Peter. Fun to do the box with you. Yeah, I think we'll wrap up the live stream, go back into Discord, and have some chats there still, and continue on there. So,
sounds like a plan.
For the viewers watching this recording later, every third Wednesday of the month, we have our meetup. Feel free to join. Look us up on meetup.com, Hack the Box Netherlands. Bye-bye. Say bye, Peter.
Bye.